And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Steel Driver is the newest Martin Wallace game from Tree Frog Games, and it's a railroad game. Although I guess that's, to me, pretty much an unfair description. It's more of a stock market game. Um, yes, there's railroads. It reminds me a lot of Union Pacific, but it's a much basically you're buying stocks in different railroad companies and then trying to expand those companies to get points at the end of the game. It's very much a game in which you look towards the future, in which you look towards that final turn to get the points that you want. The game has a few basic phases. Let's look at them. Each turn of the game, players are given a certain amount of investment cubes. Depends how many players are playing. For example, if there's 4 players, you get 8 of these investment cubes, and you'll be using those to auction off the different railroad companies. For example, let's say I won the blue company with 5 investment cubes. I would take the blue control marker to show that this turn I control the blue company. I would take one of the blue share markers, which I would keep for the rest of the game, and I would take those 5 investment cubes and put them on the blue spot. And you can win more than one company per turn. It depends how many people are playing, and you could win none of the companies. And any investment cubes that you don't use, you save and you can use them for bidding in the next round. Once all the players have gotten the different companies they control, then players will take turns building their companies on this map. The first company that they build can be anywhere next to a hexagonal space. Several of the cities are hexagonal cities, and there's numbers on the board showing how many investment cubes that it takes to build a track there. And you can see the investment cubes that you use to bid on these companies will be used to grow these companies. And as the game progresses, players will be spider webbing and the companies will be growing over the course of a game. When you build these, the city that you connect to has a certain dollar amount on it, and at the very bottom of the board, players will be following a track to show how much the company earns that turn. Let's say on one turn, blue connects to 2 different cities worth 80,000 each. The blue moves up to 80, and whoever controls the blue company that turn would get $80. Now, money in this game is paper money, but really, now I'm usually opposed to paper money in games, but here I don't mind because you don't ever spend the money. You simply collect it as a way of getting points. That's all it is. Money basically equals points. At the end of a game, at the end of each round, basically, players, all the companies are reset, all the company markers are replaced. If they have any investment cubes, they stay there, and players bid on the companies again next turn. And there's really not much of a change-up, except when the west to east coast is connected, the Transcontinental Railroad, the players who own the companies involved in that get a bonus. But that's a moment of the now and here. All these things. Each turn you put down track, and whatever your income is moved to, that's the amount of income the player who controls it gets that turn. At the very end of the game, though, every single city on the board has a cube placed on it. The cubes that are placed on it are cubes that match the color of the city. And then the player who owns the most shares of each company controls the company for the end of the game. When they do that, in turn order or of the companies, each company will take one of these cubes off the board that connects with its spider web of train tracks. And you'll keep doing that until all the cubes are gone. After the companies have gotten their cubes, these cubes are arranged into sets. Each set can have 1 cube from each color in it. So, for example, here, this company would have 5 sets. These 1 cube sets here that they have are worth $10 each. This 3 cube set is worth $60, and this 4 cube set is worth $100. And if you manage to get a 5 cube set, which is the most you can get, $150. You add all that together, that's how much that company is worth per share, and each player would get that much money for every share they had of that company. I found that Steel Driver is actually a difficult game to teach because players understand the auctioning of companies. They understand controlling the different companies on the board. It's that end of the game cube part which really, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense until you actually see it happen. Once you get the shares at the end of the game, you realize that that's a major part of the game. And many times during the game, players are going to be forced with difficult decisions. Do I want to connect to this city, which gives me a lot of money now for myself, or if I connect it to this city that has maybe an orange cube, I'll be able to make a better set for that company at the end of the game, and therefore get a lot of money for all the shares I have in that company. Diversification, is it worth it? Usually. Although if you put a lot of effort into one company and that company does very well, you can make a lot of money. It's a short auction/stock game, and it seems to work well. You know, you look at it and you think, oh boy, another bunch of cubes and sticks and railroad pieces. You know, what does this game really offer that other games don't have? Well, for one, it goes up to 6 players, although the game seems to be best with 4. The theme of having the transcontinental railroad works pretty well, and I like how these cubes, even though they're not really intuitive on how they work, once you do grasp it, it helps you understand why the company is basically expanding in as many different directions as it possibly can. So I like it. I like the game a lot, actually. I think that even though it's a very simple, easy game, there's a bit of a hump for new players, but once you get over that, it's very understandable, and it's something I look forward to playing quite a bit, especially with 4 players.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.